Hey guys, Clouded Journey here, and this is going to be a bit of a response video to Ghost Critic's question of the week, which happened to be based on a question I asked him in a comment. And it was just basically about this idea that maybe there's a new age of comics coming, or that we're in it, or that we're seeing the beginning stages of it. It was a question I was just wondering about. Um, and I'm going to go into a little bit my thoughts. He made some really good points about how he doesn't think it is just based on the numbers. I kind of suggested Image and some of the creator-owned companies and things like that, and their rising popularity is some signs that maybe there's something new happening. But when you look at the actual sales numbers, they're still fairly low. The big two, Marvel, DC, still dominate quite a bit, although a bit of their market share has been taken over the last few years. We're seeing that Marvel and DC are still clearly the kings. They have almost always the top 10, maybe top 9 fields of the sales numbers per month. Um, so I guess where my question came from and why I came up with it was just thinking about the modern age, which is sort of considered 1980s until present. So that's like a 34-year window right there. Um, that's a huge chunk of time, and so much has changed over that time, way more, I think, than in the earlier ages, just with the advent of different technologies, which then changed the way we enjoyed media. You have things like computer-generated images coming in. You had different forms of printing. You had moving away from pulp paper, things like that, changing prices. You look at like the 90s, and when Image came out originally, and came out, I think, a whole bunch of crap, but something different, a different company that was coming out with new ideas and newer ways of doing things, which I think started off slow. I think really they sort of fell into the trap that so many other startup comic book companies do, which is they try to just copy what Marvel and DC have done and do their own thing. The problem with that is Marvel and DC are so established that you just can't compete with them because those characters and those brands are so strongly etched in our minds and our imaginations that we can pick up a Batman story and you don't need any build up. You know who Batman is, you know his backstory, you know what he's about, and you can see a different take on him or a different type of Batman story. There's a million different things you can do with those characters because they're sort of um, basic structures are so etched in our minds that you can do so many different things with them. And when you try to copy that style and bring new characters in, they just don't seem to click as well. They feel like they're ripoffs, or they just don't have the same depth, or for whatever reason, they just most people find it hard to connect to those characters in the long term. Um, so the other big thing that's really changed is kind of coming into the 2000s is the Comics Code Authority. So you guys know it probably. Here's a good example. This stamp up here, which you see on all the classic comics, that had some serious weight because advertisers wouldn't put their ads in comics that weren't backed up by this authority. And that's not really the case now. People will advertised in any book they like, sort of the more adult themes and things like that with a lot of these books, and that's not an issue. So the comics aren't really hogtied by that anymore and are able to go some pretty insane new places. I was just even watching Sleepy Reader 666's video, and he was talking about revenge, which is just like he was saying it's incredibly violent, incredibly dark, and it's like violence porn, which I don't like. I have issues with, but they're able to do that, and they're able to make a book like that. There's really literally no limits to it these days. So you're starting to see people understand that. I think Saga is one of the books I've talked about and I love, which does that. It just pushes the medium to the limits, which is really exciting. And I think there's some interesting things happening with that. I think part of my issue and why I've been thinking about that is a bit of my frustration because I really enjoy comics. I've really got into them quite seriously and spent a lot of money on them in the last year or two here. And it bothers me that it's a fairly limited medium for what it is, how long it's been around. I think it's just as legitimate as writing, as like visual art, as writing novels, as making movies, as making animation, cartoons. It to me, it's on the level with all those things. Yet it doesn't get nearly as much of the respect as those different mediums get. And I've been wondering why. And I think there's a few reasons. Part of it is this idea of the comic book store. The only places they're really available is in the comic store, which can be an intimidating place. There's a bit of a stigma around them. And like, I remember I saw a kid come into mine the other day. His friend had a few comics, so he wanted to get into it. He said he liked the Flash. I tried to kind of help him out and show him different things, but his option is what? The new stuff, which is $4 an issue or $3 an issue, or some of the back issues, which is hard to get runs together. There's all these different volumes. It's really confusing. So it's a pretty intimidating place for someone new to get into something like that. Now, also when I think comics, I combine comics and graphic novels. Comics, I guess, would be the monthly ongoing series. Graphic novels would be something with like a beginning, middle, and end. That's often bound. So I guess if you compare those, if you wanna split those and say they're different things, then maybe comics can only go so far. Maybe they are sort of a junk food type art medium that we just need to enjoy and have fun with, and for the most part, that's all they're going to be, and we can't expect them to go too much farther than that. I don't really like to accept that. I like to think that they can go a lot farther and challenge our thinking. I'd love to see more books in schools and things like that, talking about different issues. You got books like The Hunger Games that are starting to challenge things. A lot of books we read, and you can probably remember your own in elementary school and growing up, that helped you think about the world and think about how things worked and challenged your way of thinking and helped you grow as a person. And I'd like to see more of that in comics. Mouse by Spielgman. Oh, what's his first? I forget his first name. But that was the first comic I read. I think I read it in grade 4, and it's all about the Holocaust. So, like, that's something, and that won the Pulitzer Prize. But there's very little other comics or graphic novels that have won major literary prizes outside of like specifically for prizes specifically for comics or that medium. So, like, my question is, why aren't more people reading comics? Why is it only the superhero geeks who kind of can consistently read these books? I guess I would challenge companies like Marvel and DC. And like not too long ago, Marvel was bankrupt. That's why they don't have Spider-Man in the Avengers movie, because they had to sell the rights to save the company. X-Men and Spider-Man, the two basically the biggest hero franchises in that company, aren't under their control now in terms of movies. So, like, what went wrong is, I think they work so much to focus on the now, immediate sales, doing gimmicks and things like that, and it doesn't help the medium overall. So you think about like the overdoing the events or crossovers or different covers, variant covers. Like the Walking Dead 115 is a great example. There were 15 covers and it went crazy and tons of people bought them. To me, I'm actually frustrated by people who buy those, because when you pay for that stuff and pay for 15 different covers, then you're giving your money to that idea and essentially voting and saying, yes, this is okay, continue to do these kind of things, because I'm just going to shell my money out for it, when it doesn't help the medium at all. What would really help the medium is to spend your money on good writing and good art, and allowing the creative product itself rather than the cover or whatever, or the event or whatever, to kind of draw you in and make you spend all this money. So yeah, I guess I'm just, that's sort of where my thinking comes from. I drew up some numbers, like, just if you look at comics in general, compared to like video games, comics sold around $517 million in sales in 2013. That's based on Comic-Con, if you guys look up that website. I compared it to video games, which sold $15 billion last year, so that's like 1,000 times as much. in sales. Just fiction books alone were $3.9 billion last year. So it's just a huge discrepancy in sales numbers. These aren't counting obviously digital and ebooks and stuff like that, but and I think the digital comics in that way could change things somehow. And they're trying to do different things with Infinity and finding different ways. I think that's almost going to become its own medium. That's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I hope that there's a new era coming, because I think a lot of these user, or what they call creator-owned products, can push the medium to new places. There's a lot of things I might like to see changed, which people would probably disagree with me. Some examples are, I would love to see comics, and it's starting to go there almost, instead of ongoing series forever, have seasons like you do on television. So you have, Spider-Man season 1, starting with Amazing Spider-Man 1, and where they can do one season's 12 issues. They encourage the writers to have a beginning, middle, and end in mind, an idea of where they want to go with that story, and at the end of that season, take a month off, have a new writer, or have that writer come up with his new idea for the next season, and go forward with that. So you don't force these creators to be powering through issues every month, trying to get so much done that they just can't do, and getting a mediocre product. I'm kind of rambling now. Back to the main question was about is it a new era? I don't know if it is specifically, but I'm seeing signs that maybe things are going in the right direction. With a lot of people on this YouTube community seem to be really into the new Image titles, a lot of the creator-owned stuff. The stuff that's not necessarily just superheroes, as much as but some of it is superheroes. Like, I love Invincible, for example, and that's a creator-owned book that's not one of the big two, and kind of is pushing that genre in a different direction, and it has a different feel than a lot of those other books. So I'd love to see us to continue to be buying these books and supporting these different style books and sharing them with our friends, guys. Like, I just want to encourage everyone, pick up some trades that you like and stuff, and be willing to pass them on to your friends. I'm even thinking about putting together a list of kind of the best trade paperback books to give to people who don't read comics. In order, like, I was thinking that Brian K. Vaughan, The Pride of Baghdad, things like that are really great reads, that aren't just, like, I love superhero books. I read them and I buy them and I enjoy them, and I don't necessarily always expect too much from them. But books that are for everybody a little bit more than just that one hardcore group of avid readers who seems to control everything and throw their hands up in the air anytime there's a change. Another example I'd cite is Superior Spider-Man. Like, who would have thought that Superior Spider-Man would have lasted a year and had the sales numbers it did? Like, that's pretty incredible that people are okay with such a big change. When you look back to something like the clone years, and there's other issues involved there, but the clone years had had everyone's up in arms and everyone's upset. Daredevil, another one, they totally changed sort of the direction that Daredevil's traditionally been in, and the sales have been great because maybe people are looking for something different, something more in depth, and to do different things with the characters and take some risks. So hopefully Marvel and DC, and we'll see sort of that people are responding to these sort of different ideas and be willing to take risks themselves and do their own things. Because, guys, Batman's never going to go away. Spider-Man's never going to go away. These stalwarts in the superhero world are always going to be there. And the original Silver Age stuff that made them so great is always going to be there as well. So don't be afraid when things change and when they try different things, because you'll always be able to go back to that. So those are my thoughts. That's kind of what's been going on in my head. Hope that makes sense, and thanks for watching, guys. Check out Ghost Critic's video and put in your 2 cents too for his questions. So thanks a lot.